Hey, this is Addison from the Agency of Narrative Intrigue and Mystery, and welcome to this little series of quick start videos for Eureka Investigative Urban Fantasy. This one on how to approach Eureka. I'm not going to be going over like every single rule and modifier. This will not be a replacement for actually reading the rule book, but it should help get you started, especially if you're like intimidated by the page count. But if you are intimidated by the page count, don't be intimidated by the page count. Like 3/5 of the rule book, like 400 out of 700 pages, are just like lists and tables and character options and stuff. At the time of recording this, which is July 11th, I just sent out the July 11th version of Eureka to the Patreon subscribers. And that is the that is the PDF I'm using right now, the most up-to-date up to July 11th. In case anyone was not aware, at the time of recording this also, Eureka is still in like beta stage, where it's fully playable, but not all of it is like copy edited. There's not all the art is done, and not all of it's put in the book, and we still have this really like basic like black text on white background page layout. It's going to look nicer when it's fully finished, but there shouldn't be that many more changes. I do not expect that there will be something different in the future finished version compared to what I'm going to do with these videos now, especially because I'm not going to go into every single little modifier and +1 bonus in this little series of videos. So, what is Eureka for? Eureka is a game for running mysteries. The main setting focus is the 21st century American South, but with a little adjustment, it can handle just about any location on Earth between the 1800s and the present day, though definitely leaning towards, North America. So the title says urban fantasy, but don't think of it like Shadowrun or like World of Darkness. Eureka's approach to urban fantasy is pretty distinct. I'll probably cover that in another video, but really shortly, the public at large does not know about magical things like vampires, but it is not because of some kind of government conspiracy, like SCP Foundation, or the vampires like control the government and have a big masquerade or conspiracy to keep themselves secret from the wider public. Magical stuff like vampires are just like exceedingly rare. A vampire has probably never met another vampire in no matter how many centuries they've unlived. All of their friends would be mortal, and they would just have to deal with the position that being a vampire puts them within modern society. And the rulebook itself is going to provide you with a bunch of like intricate tools, rules, mechanics, numbers, tables, lists, character abilities, and stuff like that for role-playing mystery investigation in like a grounded 21st century world. Okay, so approaching this game. Eureka is a tabletop RPG. I'm just going to trust you know roughly what that is already if you clicked on the video. Every tabletop RPG has expectations of like how you're going to approach it and like the play style you're going to play it with, how the rules are meant to be used and applied as opposed to just what the rules are. But most tabletop RPGs do not really spell theirs out the way that Eureka does. Hell, in a lot of cases, the designers might not even be aware that they've written certain playstyle expectations into their game. But every tabletop RPG has playstyle expectations. Eureka just spells them out explicitly. The things I'm going to go over in this video about the playstyle expectations, the approach to the game, these are rules. This is not a suggestion. They aren't any less rules than like a +1 modifier or a character ability. This is the rules about how the rules were designed to fit together and be applied. It might be something that you already play tabletop RPGs with that approach, or it may be something where this is very different from how you're used to playing RPGs. But if you don't follow the approaches as outlined in the sections of the rulebook that I'm going to go over in this video, you'll probably find yourself like working against the game and not working with the game, and that is a lot less fun. The player characters in Eureka are called investigators. In this video, I'll be referring them as PCs, characters, and investigators, and player characters pretty interchangeably. When you play Eureka, the game master who is also called a narrator, but I'm probably just going to say game master a lot. When you play Eureka, the game master isn't telling you a story or telling you where your characters go. They're there to play the NPCs, the non-player characters, and tell you what your characters see, feel, hear, smell, and taste. It's you and your characters who will be making decisions and drawing conclusions based on that. Unlike what you might expect from a lot of other RPGs, the Game Master isn't like going to be making up the facts of the mystery as they go along. The facts don't just become one thing because you, the player, think that. In Eureka, there's a set, concrete set of facts to the mystery at hand, and it is you and your character's job to get to the bottom of it, and hopefully the character does not die trying. For that, you need to be prepared to play very proactive characters. You need to not wait for the game master to tell you where your characters need to go or what they need to do. Otherwise, they're just going to lose the trail, the bad guy's going to escape, they might also just die. Which brings us to the next bit, is that Eureka is a hard game. The party might only figure out part of the mystery, they might figure out basically none of it. If they aren't careful, they might just die. And that's alright, that's okay, like that's part of the game. There's no winning without the risk of losing in Eureka, and the risk of losing is very real in Eureka. I'll get to that more in the game mastering video, but like I said, the game master is not going to be telling you a story, and it isn't their job to make sure the story keeps going, no matter what mistakes the party makes. If the party figures out the mystery and they do something about it and stop the threat, that's an acceptable ending to the game. That's good. If they don't figure it out, that is also an acceptable ending to the game. That is fun. A lot of the best stories, particularly mystery stories, leave you guessing on some stuff. If the party all dies, that's also an acceptable ending. The point is not necessarily to win. The point is to try to win and have fun while you're trying to win, because you won't always win. Because Eureka is the type of RPG you might call a challenge game. It's a very old type of RPG. It's challenging, a very traditional type of RPG. It's challenging to both player and character. The gameplay is about the characters trying to overcome challenges, and the players are trying to build characters that can overcome those challenges and have enough understanding of the rules to play them accordingly. And either one of those can fail. If you've never been very good at making, builds in like D&D or Pathfinder or whatever, you don't need to worry too much about that. There aren't really any bad builds in Eureka. Eureka investigators have a ton of skills and abilities that make them pretty good at solving mysteries by default. I'll go over that. I'll go over all those in another video. And also another topic for another video, but shortly, failing is not always inherently bad in Eureka. Failure, first of all, can be fun if the gameplay is fun. And in Eureka, it can be rewarding. The character I play the most, for instance, has some really bad stats and some skills that seem to come up a lot. And watching her crash and burn in those situations has made for a bunch of really memorable scenes in our games. You can even build a character where failing a lot is part of their gameplay and is ultimately beneficial. But I'll get to how those mechanics work in another video. Regardless, you have to go into this game with the expectation that things are going to go really bad for your character at least some of the time. Because just because your characters are the protagonist of the game does not mean that the world will revolve around them or that they're guaranteed to succeed. They will not have plot armor, and some really pretty awful stuff is pretty likely to happen to them if they don't play their cards right. Which means it's another thing that's going to be very helpful to keep in mind for Eureka, and is, like I said, part of the rules, is it's happening to your character. It is not happening to you. When you play Eureka, your character is not a representation of yourself. They're not a persona you take on for the session. They're not a puppet or a game piece or a suit that you pilot. Treat them, think of them like they're more like a character in a novel. They are distinct from the author who created and wrote them, and it's your job as a player to come up with a dude separate from yourself and answer the question, what would my guy do in this situation? And describe that. That's another thing, is unlike what some people might be used to with RPGs, you describe what your character does and how they do it. The Game Master basically does not ever do that in Eureka. I'll get to that in the Game Master video. Part of this You Are Not Your Character stuff is playing using third-person verbiage. As in, when you're talking about your character, you talk about them in third person. It's very simple. Like, instead of saying, I shoot my gun at him, you'd say something like, Yvette shoots her gun at him, if your character is Yvette. If you're the game master, you don't say, you take 4 damage. You say, Yvette takes 4 damage, and it's just that easy. If your character is talking to someone, you can still do a voice for that and speak their dialogue as if the dialogue is spoken in first person. If I'm playing Yvette, I might say Yvette walks up to him and says, Hello, do you know anyone here called Mac? Something like that. For some people it might feel weird at first and take some getting used to, but if you give it a chance, pretty much everybody finds that, like, trying to do it, it becomes very easy very quickly. One of the reasons this matters is because tabletop RPGs, the gameplay is made up of language. You're talking to other people at the table is what a lot of the gameplay looks like, and so the actual language you use, third person or first person, that makes a big difference. And part of that difference is what Eureka is going for intentionally as a piece of art, as a game that you play. That is how Eureka is designed to work. You're creating a separate guy with strengths, weaknesses, vulnerabilities, and you're putting him in a situation to solve a mystery. And whatever happens next depends on him and the other PCs and the rules and the dice. You play to see what happens when you put this group of characters together and task them with solving a mystery. Watching your guy succeed is going to be fun, and watching him fail is going to be fun. So do not be afraid to fail rolls as well. You are not your character, and nobody in their right mind is going to get mad at you, the player, for your guy screwing up. That is about it for this video. That was how to approach Eureka, and if you want to approach the store page for Eureka and download it, you can pick up a beta PDF copy of Eureka at anim-ttrpg.itch.io, or if you just Google Eureka Investigative Urban Fantasy, you'll find it. We'd really appreciate it if you paid for it so that we can pay our bills and stuff, but payment is optional. You can download it for free. You can get even more stuff, including the most up-to-date rolling updates rulebook monthly for a $5 subscription to our Patreon at patreon.com/the Agency of Narrative Intrigue and Mystery Patreon. If you can't afford to pay us in any way, you can still get a lot of it for free on itch.io, like I said. And another way you could support us is to talk about us, share this video around, like the video, tell your friends about Eureka, play Eureka. That's what we really want. So thank you for watching, and I'm signing off for this video.